Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna start the
Nerdcore used to be
opening,
just a made-up
so.
word. MC
So there's openings, and then
Kyle, come play with us. Is it hopscotch? Yeah, actually it is.
that was our very lame attempt
That was so bad.
of two supernatural beings communicating with each other.
About hopscotch.
Apparently they do hopscotch. And
Yep.
welcome to Every Man's Guide to Nerddom, where we are two 30 to 40 something year olds who talk about pretty much whatever we want. I'm Chris.
And I'm Kyle. And if you guys like to be a part of the community, hang out and join us with the things that we do, there's a link in the show notes down below for the Discord. Yeah, below us. Oh, I gotta do that too.
Below.
Us.
Below.
There is a link to the Discord server for Every Man's Guide to Nerddom. We have all kinds of channels dedicated to individual topics that you may be interested in discussing with fellow nerds. So we have channels for movies, video games, anime, comics, sports, beer, funk. You think of it, it's there. And if it's not there, let us know. We'll maybe make one. But lots of like-minded people that you didn't even know were also of like minds of you that you can discuss things with. And if you'd like to hang out with us live and in person, we stream pretty much every Friday and Saturday night together on Twitch. Chris over there is Guyver Unit 01, Guyver
LMNOP.
LMNOP. Yeah, Guyver Unit 01, GUYVERUNT 01 on Twitch. And mine is KSIG, K_SIG. So find us, hang out with us. We play a lot of spooky games typically, or spooky themed games. This month is all spooky games. And then you can also catch us both playing some other stuff from here and there. I like to do a lot of survival stuff. Chris just likes to survive. So hang out with us. Barely. So it's a good time. Good time.
It is a good time. We really enjoy when you all come hang out with us.
Yeah.
It's fun. Kyle and I think we built a pretty good little community with you all, and
yeah, come kick it with us.
Don't prove us wrong.
Yeah, we had a really, really good spooky Saturday night. Probably one of the best spooky Saturdays we've ever had, ever.
Last night. Here it comes. Here it comes. But wait.
Chope
but I was out of town and I didn't get to play.
Doc was there. Chris was absent. And
we
progressed so far in that game last night.
So the reason we don't get far in that game is because Chris is there. The reason we had a good spooky Saturday because Chris wasn't there.
Like, I'm just saying there's a pattern. You connect the dots however you seem fit.
Connect the dots. La, 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 piss off.
La, 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 la.
So we have, first off, our listener of the week. Kyle, who's our listener of the week?
That's going to be Mr. Banner, a.k.a. Dr. Bruce Banner, or was it like XX Dr. Bruce Banner? XX?
Now it's Banner Gaming.
Banner Gaming now.
Woo,
on the Twitch.
Banner. He will forever be Dr. Bruce Banner just because we all like the Hulk.
We do like the Hulk. And he obviously does as well.
And
Woo,
Banner!
Banner's the reason we had a whole episode dedicated to Funko. Banner has his own little channel in the Discord. If you guys follow those links, where people share pictures of their favorite Funkos that they have. It's FUNKO. Keep it tidy. So, yeah, share all your Funkos with us. Amateur
Mostly
Funkos.
Kyle, he's lonely.
Yeah. I want to see all your amateur Funkos. So, there's a spot for that. But Banner, thanks.
Thanks, Banner. Banner has been a loyal listener. Not since episode 1, but he listened and then re-listened. And he's been with us for a long time now. And so, Banner, thank you. Seriously.
Thank you so much.
All right. So, what are we talking about today?
Stuff.
Hey,
Spooky
good point.
Stuff. Yep.
And that's been the episode. Thank you.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Boy, that was
We
the shortest episode we've ever done.
So being the time of year it is, we've been doing stuff over spooky pop culture stuff and movies and things, and really cool one and that I love paranormal movies.
Me too.
And we're going to talk about like the distinction, and sometimes the lines get blurred between you have your typical horror movies, you have and supernatural movies, paranormal movies fall under that, right? But there's certain things that make them stand out different. We're going to talk about that. We're talking about the history a little bit. Talk about the history of the movies themselves as they've come out and what they are, what we like, what we've seen, what we haven't seen. There's some on here that I've seen that Chris hasn't seen, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
That Chris has probably seen more. But why we like them? Why you guys like them? Why people like them? Because if people didn't like them, they wouldn't keep making them.
Nope.
And we've had a good resurgence probably the last 20 years in these. There was a little lull, little downtime where they weren't as popular.
Not laughing out loud.
No, it's lulls.
Not lolling.
Nah, lulls is but a really cool topic. So we'll kind of just jump right into that and starting with like the history of it. There's always been a fear of the unknown and that creepiness of what's in the shadows, what's in the dark, what can we see? And it's a different fear from, oh, this guy is going to kill me with an axe.
Yep.
With his weird mask on and stuff like that. Those are scary in their own right, but for different reasons. We've always had this, there's always been cultural beliefs around spirituality and the afterlife and demons and ghosts and, things like that have been ingrained in us for generations and generations. And once we were able as, humans to be able to start making media and things like, there's been scary stories from way back when. It's always been there, but with movies, really kind of put it in the forefront, things that were taboo, like you didn't talk about some of this stuff in the past because you didn't want to speak it into existence or things like that. And now it's like it's on a screen right in front of you. And became really prevalent like in the 20s and the 30s. There's some expressionist films and became much more popular in the 30s when Universal Studios started making monster movies. Like that was the kickoff. Transylvania, Eastern Europe, and just like your Draculas and things like that, which are, a little different from like the slasher movies that we saw becoming really big in the 80s and the 90s. We'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like you said, it's the fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
It's the things that go bump in the night.
Yeah.
And
to me, this stuff is scarier than slasher films.
Yeah, I agree. Slasher films don't really scare me.
No.
I mean, okay, they do, but not in the same way that this does. This is like more of a primal fear.
Yeah. Well, you get scared if your chair creaks funny. So.
Okay, that is also true. But again, this is a primal fear, not a chair squeaking funny, ha thingy, mabobber.
Yeah, this is something that we're raised with, born with.
Right. And so it's no, did you say cultural beliefs? Yeah, you did.
I just briefly mentioned it.
So that's a big thing. Like a lot of these stories you see of like Baba Yaga or skinwalkers or like the tooth fairy, or if you look at the true origin of the tooth fairy, the true origin of the tooth fairy is she's a bitch. Like she collects little kids' teeth, and if you look at the true origin story, she tried to kill kids. If you look at that kind of stuff.
Well, that sucks. I'm putting nothing under my pillow.
That sucks. Yeah, yes, it does. But it all comes from cultural beliefs, whether that be European, Native American. Every culture has its own boogeyman.
I was say boogeyman. That the boogeymans.
And here's the thing. I will preference this. I don't care what you guys think, but I am a firm believer in the afterlife and spirits, everything else. Like the culture that I'm from is very superstitious.
Mhm.
Hawaiian culture is very, very superstitious. Um, Kyle and Lily are Native American. They have a lot of cultural superstitions, and a lot comes from the unknown. How do we explain the unknown?
Yeah.
But they all have that backstory. And here's one thing I want to pose to you. Do you think, since we're on cultural beliefs, everyone has a story of the boogeyman, not John Wick?
I think so. I mean, I'm sure there may be some outliers there, but I think everybody, just like you said, there's things that we don't understand, and we have to think of a way to explain them so our little smooth monkey brains can rationalize what's going on. And by telling these stories, they're one, ways to explain the unexplained, or at least rationalize those. Two, there were some to just to keep kids from doing stupid shit, like don't go out there because such and such will, eat your face off or
Don't
whatever.
go past the boundary.
Don't go past the boundaries. So, and not just kids, probably adults as well. Like I wonder how many, okay, now my wheels are turning. How many of these, I guess we'll just keep going with Boogeyman, were created by maybe someone in power that's want to keep people out of a certain area because they didn't want anybody there to find out things that were going on,
Right.
or to discover things like, oh, you don't want to go over there because the whatchamacallit thingy will stab you in your sleep and pull your teeth out and feed them to children or something, like come up with
Mhm.
something super crazy and scary so nobody goes over to the dark part of the forest,
Right.
where all the gold's at or something.
And
And
that
it
brings up
sticks.
a good point. How many is actually like that?
Yeah.
um Here's another question I want to pose to you. So, like, with religion, you and I have discussed this before.
Hmm.
I'm a firm believer that all the different religions are a way of seeing the same higher being.
Yeah.
It's just different cultures
Yeah.
seeing it, different ways of seeing the same higher being. Because again, I'm a believer in aliens. I'm a believer in the supernatural. Just because I think it'd be very um ignorant of us, and I don't know what the other word is I'm looking for, but to think that we're the only beings here
Yeah.
and that there's nothing beyond. Do you think all these cultures saying this is the boogeyman, do you think it's a bigger way of seeing the same being too?
I think it's either a bigger way of seeing the same being, or there's a lot of borrowed ideas. A lot of cultures, a lot of religions borrow ideas from other people. Once
Hmm.
international trade started happening, we didn't trade just goods and services. We traded ideas and beliefs and melded those with our own. And that's kind of what brought a lot of these legends and things like, okay, well, this group of people over here had this. That sounds spooky. I'm going to integrate it into my belief system over here because that, I can change it around a little bit, but it's different versions of the same thing.
Right.
I think you would see that a lot in like native tribes that there were similar stories, but with different names. You would see that a lot in like Middle East and especially in Asia. A lot of things are really similar, but just named different and some slight variations in those. So a lot of borrowed ideas and a lot of intermingled ideas to where it gets kind of in this little melting pot of spookiness.
Right.
And as you trace back, you think your favorite spooky supernatural thing, you start researching that, you'll see that other cultures have different versions of the same thing, and they could possibly be borrowed down the timeline. There's that, or there's also the other explanation, like if they didn't have any reason to connect and meet, that maybe this is a different way of expressing seeing the exact same thing.
I agree.
So
I totally agree. I think that's a great that's a really cool way of picturing it too, or saying it.
Yeah.
So yeah, good job, Kyle.
Kind of curious to see where you got. We with your what we got going with the history here that explaining the unexplained. Medieval witchcraft denunciations were a way of excluding the mentally ill, for one.
Mm-hmm.
Mary Shelley's Frankenstein attempts to make sense out of the rapid innovations of electrical technology in the early 19th century through her grotesque creation, through all of that.
If you think about that, that's think
Mhm.
about when it was written and what was going on at the time.
Modern day supernatural thrillers allow like this fantastical escapism, which is like really, I think, huge in our society. Like now is escapism, wanting to experience something different than and it's either that or it's just us getting older, the normal humdrum of daily life, and like we want to experience something sensational and extraordinary that's outside of our normal daily lives. And then we kind of talk about the world as a whole was extremely religious, whatever religion it was in your area at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea of being agnostic and atheist and non-believers in anything is increasing in society. And now the things that we used to believe in, that we just believed in them because we believed in them and they were spooky, are slowly becoming more and more rationalized. This is why this spooky boogeyman was created or explained, and there are the reasons behind it. This is why this one was done, and so we're starting to rationalize things more. And I don't know if we're starting to kind of lose that spookiness a little bit as a result of it because we're being too rational. Me personally, especially when reading things, whether it be historical or fiction, that are revolving around supernatural boogeymen type things, like my rational brain wants to kick in and try to explain everything, and that
Right.
sucks a lot of the fun out of it. And so
Me, I just don't think about it. I just go with it.
yeah, and I try to do that so hard, like just enjoy it for what it is, and especially in movies and things. Really hard sometimes 'cause I pick stuff apart. Not even just the supernatural movies, just like any movies, like, oh, that makes zero sense. Why would
Mhm.
that happen? And I can let a lot go. I can let a lot go, but just sometimes like, put some effort into it, guys. That makes zero sense of why anybody would go up those stairs or why anybody would buy this obviously haunted house. Like, I know.
So, on that, do you think that? Trying to think how to put this, because you just hit on this. So, okay, you know how in the movies there's always there's the sexy teens partying,
Mm-hmm.
and like there's the hot dumb girl,
Yeah.
there's the final girl,
Uh-huh.
there's the jock,
Uh-huh.
and then you got the sciency one, whether that's your Velmas,
Yeah.
your smart Asian, you know what I mean? But they always come out and say, no, there's got to be a rational explanation for this. There's science. Do you
Yeah.
think that they're kind of poking fun of themselves at that? Or not poking fun, but like being self aware?
I think it's more like self-awareness, knowing that there are going to be people sitting there like me a lot of the times, like, this makes no sense. I don't understand why this is like, they've got to have that balance, and you got to have something to go against what's obviously going to be happening in the movie.
Right.
There's got to be a rational explanation for it. That's a great line from, almost every scary movie ever when all the unexplained happens.
Right.
And I think it's a necessary part of even though it's like cliche at this point, like, like, oh yeah, that guy with the glasses, he's going to say that at some point in time. The guy that's fiddling around in the science lab, yeah, he's going to say something. This makes no sense. This isn't right. I think you have to have that as the yin to the yang of the, okay, well, this is not explainable.
Right.
If you have to have that balances things out.
So you think that? Yeah. No, I agree that that's a really good explanation of it.
Mm.
But they always, does it seem like more recently too? There's always that one character in these supernatural movies.
I think so, and you see it a lot. You know, I like the like your paranormal activity type things. You know, you have the skeptics, so it's not always your sciencey nerdy rational thinkers that are the balance to it. With the uptick the last several years of paranormal movies coming back into mainstream and being super popular again to the point like we're almost getting too many.
Yeah.
That it's like the rational intelligent role has rolled over to the skeptic role. And they're hand in hand.
Right.
But it's more now, it's not necessarily your cliche nerdy character or the smart one. It's just somebody's like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. I'm skeptical of it. They don't have that signifier of being the extra smart one.
Right. I get that.
Mhm.
That actually makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Huh. Good point.
Talk about your little thing here about neurocinematics. That seems pretty interesting.
Narrow cinema. Let me see where we're at.
Like on E.
And everyone, this is again why we have flows, because we do this all the time. Okay, so neurocinematics, what I put was researchers into a new field of neurocinematics, which is it's a brand, well, not brand new, but within the last 10 years. Focusing on our psychological response to film and television, have found out that supernatural images on the screen can bypass rational thought processes and filter and stimulate the part of the brain responsible for primal instincts, desires, and reactions. How do you pronounce that?
The amygdala.
Amygdala. That's what I said. The medulla oblongata. The amygdala. Before Netflix, chai lattes, and modern society, this part of the human brain was devoted to perceiving objects or predators that were supernatural in the sense that they were unwanted and dangerous intrusions into a tribe. So basically, what this study was when I was researching this is there's a whole new science devoted to this. And it's saying that supernatural versus slasher, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that whole the primal man, the things that go bump in the night and why they scare us. It's also the same part that produces like pleasure, like that primal, like an orgasm.
Releases
it's that same part. It's brain cum.
And so
they're the purveyors of brain cum is what they are.
So your amygdala, what that is our ancient memory bank of fight, flight, or freeze. So you have like three primal functions in your brain. You're either we actually kind of went over this recently. And a really cool example is like 2,000 years ago, thousands of years ago, we're in our little cave, just surviving, and there's a bear at the front of the cave. And our brain does not want to take the time to think, ooh, is that bear friendly? Is that a nice bear? Like, no, our brain's gonna be like, okay, we either gonna run.
Is that a nice bear?
If we can't run, then we're gonna pick up like a spear or a rock or a stick or something, and we're gonna try to fight the bear off, or we're just gonna and freeze up and fall over. Like that's the three things that we'll do.
Right.
And so the whole thing with what you're talking about with the neurocinematics is these movies, these images, these things that we're seeing, because like what you're saying, they're different from the slasher stuff, is it's triggering that primal, like you said, the primal response. We're either going to fight, we're going to flee, or we're going to freeze and fall over. That's when you're watching a scary movie with people, you'll see different reactions. Especially if you have a group of people, you get the people that jump forward on the edge of their seat because their brain is kicking in to like, oh, there's a threat. I've got to be ready to go into action. You get the people that like jump the other direction away from the screen because they're more naturally inclined for their flee response. And you get the people just like, and don't move because there's the freeze, play dead response. Those 30 things, and you watch, that's what happens. It's the same thing as if, you have those family members that or friends or whatever that you just love to hide and scare. Like, I'm going to hide around the corner and jump out and I'm going to jump scare somebody, You know, you usually get that flee response where they jump and they scream, they run away, or they freeze. If they have the fight response, you only scare them once because you get punched in the face, you never scare them again. Like, you know, hey, you don't. Uncle Jimmy, he's seen some shit.
And then they
Don't
get
scare him.
Then they get mean.
Yeah, and then you get whapped, and like, well, no more scaring Uncle Jimmy. So
I find this whole thing just fascinating that they did a whole new science based on film and television.
yeah, and just
You
the
know,
reactions to the images.
Right. But I mean, it all boils down to, you know, for the scientist, it's the fascination part.
Yeah.
But then for like Hollywood, it's the, oh, here, can we buy your research?
Yeah,
Your findings?
We can use this to scare people, and people will pay money for it. Yes, awesome. Let's do it.
I just found that super interesting because it all comes full circle
Mhm.
at that point, you know? And it's like, oh, we're gonna study why you are so scared.
You know, we're going to talk about like why we like, and this is purely anecdotal. Everybody's going to have their own reasons for this. What is it about these type of images and movies and things that why do you? Because I know you love them.
No, I love them. Absolutely love them.
What is it? Why do you love them though? Why do you, Chris, love these movies?
Well, Kyle, thank you for that question. As much as I hate it, I like to be scared.
Mhm.
It's that, you know, it's again, it's the brain cum, it's the endorphins that get released and the unknown. You know, I'll scare the crap out of myself to where like I'll be watching these late at night, like after we get done playing or something, I'll be watching a scary movie. Everyone in the house is asleep and I'll get so scared I refuse to put my foot out of the bed. You know how like when you're all covered up,
Yeah.
like I refuse, and you guys can make fun of me all you want, but I refuse
we
to
will.
put my foot out of the bed because I'm afraid something's gonna jump out and grab it.
You know, Lily's got your back. She'll protect
No,
you.
she's dead asleep.
Well,
He's got a little sleep mask on, and she is dead to the world.
like, you're on your own, buddy.
Like I've had the night terrors before, the sleep paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
I remember
those are terrible.
Yes, and I remember trying to scream for her to help, and she just right next.
Yeah, I used to
Dead
get
asleep.
those, and in combination with being lucid night terrors.
Oh,
So throw those two together, and I would just like rock, and like I was aware of everything that was going on. Like I'm in a dream, and this sucks. And so I would just like rock and throw elbows, like somebody wake me up
exactly
now because I want out of this. And it would feel like it would go on forever. And point like heart racing, sweaty, out of breath, and like not then come to and not remember any of it.
Yep.
And have it sit there for a minute, and then it starts coming back to you like, oh, yeah, I'm glad I woke up because
all
whatever
you
was,
can oh god,
yeah, it's like whatever was after me was about to get me, whether it was or not. But
well, and all you can remember is the terror. You can't remember anything else about it. Like
it takes a while to come down from there. Like all the adrenaline, all your heart racing, and all that. It takes a little while for it to. And when you crash, you hit hard and.
Well, I can recall every single time trying to scream for help, but
Yes.
your jaw's like locked. You're going, and you're mumbling. You know you are.
Just nothing would come out. Just
Well, that goes along with this whole conversation we're having, like the supernatural. They used to believe in ancient times, and they still do in some cultures.
oh yeah, I
that
know where you're going with this.
That's a demon sitting on your chest trying to eat your dreams to kill you.
I knew that, but I've made myself forget that. And now when tonight,
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Okay, so back on subject.
That's why you
of
love
not-
it, is trying to put those ideas back in my head.
Well, yeah, there's that. It's just fun. I don't know. It's fun to be scared in a way that's not. It's not your life is on the line, but just all these different possibilities of like another existence, something else that could be there, and you know you're not going to die. I hope you're not going to die.
I've got a slightly different. I mean, I like these for a lot of the same reasons. And I've got an add-on I'm going to throw in here, and this is just particularly for the supernatural, paranormal type movies. And it's not all of them. there's several that have this, is I like the reveals at the end. And so a lot of times there's a backstory to whatever the thing is that's doing the stuff that's killing or scaring everybody. And you don't get the full reveal of like what actually happened till later. So like you're sucked in, and the good ones do this really well,
Right.
where you're sucked into the movie and like, you know, there's something, and you're sometimes the part of the back of your brain, you're just like, man, there's some empathy going there. Like, I really hope that there's some redeeming qualities for this evil, spooky thing that's trying to kill everybody. And it's just really misunderstood, or, you know,
No one understands
no
me.
one understands me. You know, like a good recent example of something I watched recently was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. We talked about this the other day. You know,
Mhm.
love the books because the books and the stories in all those books were all supernatural things, all really fall into all these categories and all the things that we're discussing really well. The without, you know, spoiling anything for anyone that didn't see it, there is a really cool character development of the spooky thing that starts fleshing out towards the end of it. And I like that. I like it when there's something relatable and it's just not, oh, here's spooky thing. Spooky thing scaring everybody, but we really don't know why spooky thing's spooky. Like, give me some substance there. Like, give me a backstory. Give me a reason to stay invested in the movie to find out at the end. Otherwise, it's just, you know, 2 hours of being scared and then they sell the house and they move to Florida. You know,
Mhm.
it's, I like that additional, I like the spooky thing having really good character development, whether it's a demon, whether it's some unseen force that has explanation in some crazy ritual that happened hundreds of years ago, whether it's some creepy doll that's possessed and you find out the story of the spirit that's possessing the doll. Those things really keep me sucked in.
And yeah, no, I think that's a great way of putting it too. Like, here's what I want to challenge you all to do. You guys listening, I want you to put in the episode discussion, because frankly, we need more episode discussion in the Discord. Why do you all like scary movies, or why do you not? Tell us. Let us know what draws you in, or what makes it so you don't want that.
Yeah. They're not for everybody. I'm curious about the people like that. And you're weird. I'm gonna call you out. You're weird. I don't like scary movies. Why don't you like scary movies? And if it's just like I don't like to be scared, I'm always curious about that. Like, because I love to be scared. Chris loves to be scared. I know lots of
Mhm.
people that love to be scared, and I can understand like, ooh, that doesn't feel good because I got scared. But like, and you don't have to put that in the Discord if it's personal stuff or whatever. But that just
Yeah,
always
no,
amazes
we're
me.
not going to make you.
Yeah, the I don't do scary movies people. I just don't understand you. I don't. I don't get it.
Yeah, well, I don't understand you. Mm,
Let's
uh,
So we talked a little bit about some of the older movies. We're not going to go a lot into the classics, partially because we're not super familiar with them, but also because the newer stuff is in more recent memory because there's things that we've been watching again. If you guys want to talk about the super classic, old school supernatural movies, we could probably do that at another time.
mhm.
But where we're really kicking off, like the timeline of this is going to be like 80, like 1980-ish, a little bit before, a little bit after,
Right.
and then carrying forward into modern times. And so because up until really late 70s, early 80s, most of your horror themed movies were supernatural based. That was everything. You know, you had monster movies and then you had supernatural. Monster
Right.
movies, I think, kind of stand their own thing. Your Frankensteins and your mummies, even though they are supernatural in my brain, that's a different thing. And so that's what we mostly had up until late 70s, early 80s, when a new genre of movies really started taking the box office money home. And that was the slasher films.
Yep.
And this was kind of a downtime for your supernatural, paranormal movies and there's a difference. And I want to talk about what I feel like is the difference on this a little bit, is because your slasher movies, you think there is a big bad, right? We use the term big bad a lot. That's the antagonist. That's the evil guy. That's the evil person in the movies.
Yep.
Your Freddy's, your Jasons, your Michael Myers is, you know, you have a singular entity, a singular bad guy. You know, think of the guy with the knife, right? The bad guy with a knife. If you want to really simplify it down, they're usually a single murderous, violent antagonist, and they tend to take on almost like a perception of like a serial killer thing. So if someone's, usually the cops that are investigating in the movie or whatever, anybody that's really looking into it, it will look like a crazy serial killer doing some crazy stuff to kill a bunch of teenagers.
Right.
That's your slasher film, looking at it from the outside, which a lot of them still have paranormal elements, supernatural elements. Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, they're all some supernatural-esque elements in there, but they're really heavy on just the big bad guy stabbing a bunch of people.
Right.
But our supernatural and what we discussed, it's other in our mind, the way we wrap around it, the way we're doing it for the show, they're otherworldly, they're spectral, paranormal. The deaths and things that happen either come off extremely unexplainable in nature, like there's no rational explanation for this, how they died, or they come off extra natural and like, oh, they had a heart attack, they got scared to death or whatever. And so this goes back to like why we love it. I like those because it does go back to that primal thing. I'm not terribly worried about a 7-foot tall guy in a hockey mask showing up that's immortal, unless they're making a really good batch of meth down the street.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah, well, he's at it again. But the supernatural side, it just kind of it hits you different. It hits you different. It gets you a little bit different.
Get the gold mine.
And so we got some classic supernatural. We'll kind of start talking about some movies here.
Well, let me ask you about that.
Okay,
too.
go ahead.
Okay, so you and I discussed before we started too, and you just said it. It hits you different. The slashers versus the supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it different for you?
The slasher movies seem to rely heavily on jump scares.
Right.
Okay. And I'm not against jump scares. I love a good jump scare when it's done right. They do some building up and you can almost call them when they're coming. This jump scare is about to happen. It's about to hit you. And that's what your slasher movies are going to rely heavily on are jump scares and gore. Jump scares and gore. Some people are terrified by gore and blood and guts and things like that. The supernatural spooky movies, there's this constant feeling of dread when they're done well. They pull all the good elements from thriller type movies and add that dread, that just constant increasing dread, usually done really well with a really good score that's going to slowly build over through the course of the movie, or certain sounds or complete silence done in the right places, that it chills you to the bone because you can't explain some of it. And so that part of it is what's, I think, terrifying for a lot of people. Like, well, we couldn't explain this. Like, this isn't something that could happen. We wouldn't think in real life, but they do a really good job of selling it. Like, this could happen. And now you have a fear of clowns, and now you have a fear of dolls because you watch these movies. Because that's usually where they're going to come from, or they're playing movies off of these fears and making them supernatural. So it's a whole thing of, what we're talking about, playing with that primal part of our brain.
Right.
That works. And it doesn't need the jump scares, and it doesn't need the gore. Some of the scariest movies ever don't rely on either one of those, and they stick with you for a very long time. The imagery sticks with you for a very long time. Just like, your background, the bottom right image, that sticks with you. That's one of the creepiest images of all time. Yeah. And so that just sticks with you. Things that our brain has trouble processing. Like, oddly, we can process a giant dude in a hockey mask coming at us with a knife.
That's when you'd be like, oh, no, I'd go over there.
You could rationalize it away. We have a really hard time processing how in the hell to kill a sentient, murderous porcelain doll that's in a cage or a case. Yeah. Those things that our brain has trouble processing. And so it goes back to those three primal urges of fight, flight, or freeze that I think was what makes that work.
That's a great explanation. Um, yeah, I think it all comes down to the fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm. It's an ongoing
Like,
theme.
like for me, it's like, I think because it can hit so close to home, it's like sometimes, in the movie, again, the 7-foot immortal killer is coming after you super slow. It's like, okay, I'm getting in the car. See ya.
Yeah, Catch Me Now, or
Catch Me Now.
the little doll with red hair and a knife.
Yep.
Kick him, friggin' kick him.
He's that tall.
He's not tall at all. Get a
but,
broom
like-
and poke him away. Go on,
Keep him back with a
go
broom.
get back, get back.
It doesn't
Like,
even have to be a big broom. It can be the little handheld ones.
No, you could hit him with a Swiffer and he'd fall over. Like, you don't.
How did you stop Chucky? I got my Dyson and I took off the head on it and
Mm-hmm.
just put it on suck and just left it, and then I went away.
I set a little snare trap, caught him. Now he's stuck in the ceiling fan, just going in circles.
Yeah, let me down. You
Somebody
bitch.
needs to make that movie, like do a Chucky ripoff where it's Chucky, but it's not Chucky, but yeah, like that's Chucky. And it's him failing over and over again, trying to do stuff because people are actually smart and know how to stop him.
In a world where there's killer dolls,
We should make this
we
movie.
have the opposite.
Mhm.
Chucky fails.
Yeah, Chucky fails. What would you call it? You couldn't call it Chucky. You couldn't call it Child's Play.
Child's fails.
Smart people overcome killer doll. Like that's all you would have to call it.
Rational people overcome killer doll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just put a bucket on him, like a 5-gallon bucket, and just sit it down and put a cinder block on it. He's not going anywhere.
Or you see the wrong version of Child's Play, and Chucky ends up getting into like a Barbie. What you? Yeah, it's like, I mean, that would be harder because then he would be able to hide in smaller places, but he wouldn't be able to pick up a knife.
Wouldn't be able to pick up a knife. He have an
then-
advantage if he goes into a Ken doll though. Like you couldn't kick him in the nuts because
No,
that's
that's
not
true, too.
existent.
He's smooth.
Yeah, he's smooth down there.
But
So
you just put like a mop bucket over him and just put like a big rock, and it's like movie's over.
yeah, the family dog just grabs him up and just takes off running with him. He's like kind of like Toy Story. Yeah. So
You're welcome, Hollywood.
Charlie's all about it. He's down here looking at me right now. He's like, "Yeah, I'd eat that toy." Yeah.
That's delicious.
Yeah.
Okay,
He's little
so
and stupid, and this dog could really take care of anything like that. So
Let's go into the classic supernatural movies.
okay, so we got a lot of Stephen King stuff here too.
We do too. Yes. And and there's one on the back that we didn't put on here.
Okay,
I don't know how to spell it.
just wing it. We're the only ones reading it.
That's true. Hold on. There.
Where is it? That's
Under the shinning.
Oh, it hasn't. Oh, there it goes. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You couldn't have spelled that more wrong. Okay, so talk about the first one there.
Spell it. Okay. First one. They're here.
Poltergeist.
One of the classics of supernatural.
Mhm.
And to be fair, the whole movie was set around tragedy too. Like all sorts of weird shit died in that, or happened in that movie that they couldn't explain. So they said the movie was haunted.
Oh,
the little girl died in real life because
Mhm.
she was killed by her father, I believe.
I believe so. Here, let me. Here, you kind of go
She
on
was
out.
she was also the voice of Ducky, and she was like 10 when she died. She had like this terrible like infection, and like the father ended up killing her, and the mother, I think, something like that.
Yeah, very, very
But-
tragic ending.
She was the voice of Ducky, and what was it with Littlefoot?
Land Before Time.
Land Before Time. Yeah,
Get your shit together, man.
Yep. But guys, of course, set on an Indian burial ground. That's where we got our first glimpse of what was her name? Zelda. I'm trying to think of her name. She was the little person. Played, was it Ruby?
Oh yes. God, I forgot her name.
Helen. She is a staple in horror movies around that time.
Yep.
And
She had the
I'm looking
creepy
over-
voice.
Yep. but great actress, just phenomenal. Yeah, Zelda Rubinstein. She played Tangina. That was the worst name ever. She died in 2010 at 76, and she was 4'3", and she was so creepy, and they have parodied her in so many things. Like one of my favorites was in American Dad when Roger was her.
Yeah. Oh, they did such a good.
Oh, that
Dad
was
did
such
good-
a great
and
one.
Family Guy did a really good Poltergeist thing too.
Yeah.
I'm going
And
through here. I found the Poltergeist curse stuff. If we want to hit that really fast.
yeah, go ahead, because I think this is super interesting.
So started off, the whole thing began with human skeletons. So there's one of the famous scenes when Diane fell into the family's pool, and there's just like skeletons everywhere. Those were real skeletons because apparently rubber skeletons were too expensive to make. Fun fact. There's that. Months after the release,
Where did they get them?
I don't know, dug them up. The older daughter, Dana, the actress that played her, was murdered a few months after the film was released. Before they started filming Poltergeist 2, they had an exorcism performed on the set because of everything that happened in the first one. 2 more died.
A
within
real
couple.
exorcism.
Yep. 2 more cast members died within a couple of years of the sequel. One died of malnutrition and post-operative kidney failure.
Was that Heather?
This is the ones from the sequel. Let's see. Julian Beck, who played Kane, died of stomach cancer at age 60, which he was diagnosed before he accepted the role. And then Heather O'Rourke, who was the little girl. No, she died of cardiac arrest and septic shock caused by a misdiagnosed intestinal issue at age 12, several months before the release of Poltergeist 3, which was the final chapter in the movie. Richard Lawson was on U.S. Air Flight 405 when it crashed in 92, barely survived. 2009, Lou Perriman, who played the small role of Pugsley in the original film, was 67 when a recently released ex-con killed him in his own home with an axe. There's a lot of death around that movie. Lots of
Isn't
death.
that nuts?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm okay. So I didn't know that the sister died, Dana. It is tragic how she died. She was strangled to death by her boyfriend, who was a chef, a prominent chef. She broke up with him. He dragged her outside and strangled her, leaving her brain dead. 5 days later, they took her off life support.
Yeah, a lot of bad stuff around that one.
He got sentenced to 6 years, but only served 3.
What?
And now he's free.
Just roaming around? How? All right.
Jesus. Okay. Next one on there, but yeah, Poltergeist is super scary.
Mm-hmm.
It actually is if you think about it. So, okay. Next one is the Exorcist series.
Mm-hmm. Which I think I've only seen the first one. There was like 3, I think.
I think there's 4.
There's 4. Well, and then you have all this not spin-offs, but the inspired, the inspiration they had, because there's tons of exorcism movies that came out way later. Not
Right.
the Exorcist movies, but
movies
about
Kyle.
exorcism. What'd you find?
There's a remake planned for next year.
Nice.
It's a sequel.
Well, then that can't be a remake.
No, but it's called The Exorcist. Yeah, it's sequel to the 1973 film about a 12-year-old girl who's possessed by. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
so
interesting.
That throws our timeline back a little further. These were early 70s because Omen came out in 76. Yeah. And Omen was like where they thought the kid was the Antichrist.
Yeah, Damien.
Yeah,
Damien.
Creepy little kid. And that spurred a whole series of
Mhm.
movies. One that was not a series here. We got Carrie. Carrie was such a cool movie. The original.
Carrie is a great movie, and they've done 2 remakes of it, I think.
There was one in 2013 with Julianne Moore. How many remakes? I thought there was only just one.
I think there's 2.
There's a what's
And
this?
it's more recent.
There's a 2022 what?
Yeah.
Has it already came out?
Yeah.
Did I miss it? How did I miss that? I saw it I see where there's talks of it.
No, I'm almost positive it's come out already because I remember just reading stuff about it. But Carrie was so good.
There was a 76, and then there was a 2002, and then there was a 2013. The 2002 had Angela Bettis, Trisha Clarkson, and it was a TV, like a made-for-TV movie.
Oh, that's the one I'm thinking about then.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then you had the 2013 with
Chloe Grace Hit Girl.
Yep, and Julianne Moore. Yeah, Portia
I
Doubleday.
thought there was another remake coming out.
No, and
like
then
on Shudder or something.
there was some random like that could possibly happen. There was The Rage, Carrie 2, which I don't know which one of those it was the sequel to, but it came out in 99. Which I remember I don't think that one really took off very well.
No.
We've got. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. So we have, you brought up the Exorcist series that was 73. To this day, that's still considered one of the scariest movies of all time.
Yep.
And that's what shot Linda Blair to prominence, as Reagan. And her famous line. And it spawned so many parodies too.
Oh yeah.
What was it? Was it Scary Movie like 2 or 3? With Andy Richter was playing the priest, and then she's like, your mother sucks dicks in hell. And then they start going blah, 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 and they start like Frenching.
That may have been.
What was that one? It was 2 or 3. I just remember laughing my ass off. But Exorcist is widely renowned as one of the scariest movies of all time. It's always in a top 10 list. Just because of, this could happen. And, the Vatican actually does exorcisms.
Yeah. Well, it's still part of it's definitely 100% part of the Catholic Church. Like, you have to request them. There's like a whole thing that you have to do. But they still
don't just do them.
Yeah. The church doesn't. I'm sure you could probably find some guy on Craigslist that would come do it.
Yeah, named Craig.
Yeah, Craig.
Or Reagan. So, okay. IT.
Freaking nerds.
If you try turning it off and on again.
I didn't. Or It. It written by.
We're adding more sites to the firewall. We're blocking more access. No Spotify for you. We're requiring a 15-character password you have to change every 6 weeks.
That's terrifying. That's terrifying.
Who was it written by?
Oh, It? Stephen King.
Yes.
So the original movie, I got a great personal story about the original movie.
Or should you save that for if we end up doing the clown one next week for the final Halloween episode?
This one doesn't totally involve the clown thing. It's just why I didn't. So if you remember, the original came out on, it was a 2-part miniseries that came out on ABC back in the 90s.
Yep.
And so I remember the first half that came out. We were watching it at home. Probably shouldn't have been watching it, but we were because I was like, I don't know, 10 or 12 or not very old.
Anyway.
But we did anyway, because that night, me and my brother were supposed to camp out in the front yard. We had the tent, everything ready to go. We watched the first half of the movie. I'm like, no. And we didn't camp out. And I did not watch the second half of It until probably 10 years ago.
Really?
And it scared me that bad when I was little. Like, I'm not going to see what happened. Like, I knew what happened, but I didn't watch it for like decades.
Really?
Yep.
I love the okay. Full disclosure, I hate clowns.
Me too.
Like they scare the shit out of me. Like clowns literally just scare the piss out of me.
If you're
I
out there,
always have.
if you're listening and you're a clown and you're hearing us say this, I want to let you know, as a person who dresses up as a clown, you're still freaking terrifying. Okay,
I'm sure you're a perfectly lovely person.
Sure you are. Take the damn makeup off before you come try to shake my hand. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. But clowns scare the shit out of me. So I think this is why even the TV movie scared the shit out of me.
Oh yeah.
But Tim Curry as Pennywise,
Perfect.
100%. Like one of my favorite parts from that is, remember, he's like, I forget who he was calling, but he's like, hey, look, yuck, yuck, and he's honking the horn.
Mm-hmm.
Like that.
He was so good.
He was so great at that. Like, and Tim Curry is just the ultimate, like, spooky person. But yeah, I loved it. I really loved it, and that's one of the few clown things I can stomach. Well, okay, that and Killer Clowns from Outer Space, because that's not scary.
That's not scary. We're planning on possibly doing a whole episode about spooky clowns sometime. Maybe
because our last episode that's going to come out in a week from when you're listening from this is actually going to be the Halloween episode.
Yeah, clown one might be a good one for that.
That might be a great one for that.
You guys will see. You'll find out in the future.
In the future, but the next one is The Shinning.
The Shinning
with groundskeeper Willie.
Mm-hmm. And Jack Nicklaus, hell of a golfer.
Yeah, great golfer. Great golfer. And it all work and no play makes Homer a dull boy.
That was one of the greatest Treehouse of Horror episodes ever.
Maybe we should do. That's what we should do. Is the Treehouse of Horror episodes.
I bet I haven't watched a Treehouse of Horror, a new one, in like 16, 17 years.
I haven't either, but they're all on Disney Plus.
I'm not gonna watch 45 years, however many years, 30 years of
Treehouse of Horror. They're only 22 minutes.
There's still a lot. They're on like what, Treehouse of Horror 78 or some crap. So
close enough.
The Shining was great. I wish we had
another Stephen King.
Yeah, I wish we had Jack Nicholson in more horror movies, because he was just like made for it.
100%.
So good as the crazy guy. You know, that hotel's a real place that you can go visit.
And I think we should visit there.
You go ahead.
I have heard it's haunted.
Well, you know, all of the experience, and I see how well you handle things in like Phasmo and stuff like that. You just lead the charge. That'll be on your tombstone. What was the last thing you said? Why am I the first to die? So you've had a lot of practice in these games. We'll be set up.
Because I suck. But yeah, this is where we got the twins, the creepy twins. Come play with us, Donnie. And Red Rum and Talking to Your Fingers, okay. And okay, let's talk about The Shining real quick though too. So, was that Polanski who directed that?
Roman Polanski?
Who was
sure.
The Shining.
Shelley Duvall was in it.
Shelley Duvall, and that's where I'm going with this. Because there's been a remake of this too. The one with Brian from Wings was on there.
Well, Stanley Kubrick did the screenplay. Is that maybe why you're thinking that?
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick. Okay.
Screenplay. All
it was him. It was him.
Oh, Kubrick.
So,
okay.
Because he was the director too.
Oh, he was. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, you know, he also did
Clockwork Orange,
Full Metal Jacket, Silence of the Lambs, the original Alien. Shelley Duvall's acting in this
because what's his name took over after. No, that was Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott was the original Alien.
Was it? I thought he was maybe he was just. He did something on Alien. It is Ridley Scott.
Okay, you do your thing. I'm gonna look up Stanley. Keep going.
He did something on there. I swear he did. But so Shelley Duvall's terror, like when Jack's going after with the axe, and just like her feelings of insecurity and everything, were 100% genuine. Kubrick bullied her so bad and mentally abused her he told her how ugly she was and how she couldn't act and how terrible she was to get this performance out of her. is all 100% real. Like, if you go read the story of this, it's terrible. It is terrible. Like how bad she was treated, but just fascinating. So go do yourself a favor and go read that. Read about that.
The only Kubrick tie-in I can find in is that he called Ridley Scott after seeing the chest burst scene in Alien and was like, "How'd you do that?"
Oh, that may be what I was
That's
thinking.
the only tie-in for there.
Okay.
Where is my list?
Okay. So next up,
Amityville Horror.
horror. One of the classic supernatural ones, I think, too, because it's about a haunted house.
Mhm.
And it spawned all sorts of remakes. They've done, how many remakes have they done on this? Too many to count.
Too many to
But
count.
Ryan Reynolds was in one of the remakes. And then, you know, they got so ridiculously bad that Riff Tracks did a riff on one of them for Riff Tracks Live.
Well, the movie was based on a book, which was based on loosely based on real life events. Let's see how many movies there were. How many Amityville? Keep going.
Okay. But, you know, it's about a haunted house and getting a priest in there and finding the bones in the wall and everything else. It's one of those, the original Amityville Horror still scares me to this day.
God, there's so many movies.
Just because of how realistic they made it, and like, oh, that could happen. No, I remember putting the cookie jar there, or you know what I mean. That's the kind of crap that scares the tar out of me.
You want me to start? You want me to read these off really fast?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna have to do them super fast so we get every Amityville, and they're not all canon tied into each other or even made by the same thing. They just really jumped on the name because everybody hears Amityville, you know, is spooky. You have Amityville Horror, 1979. Amityville 2, The Possession, came out in 82. Amityville 3D came out in 83. Amityville Horror, The Evil Escapes, 89. TV movie. The Amityville Curse, 1990, straight to video. Amityville 1992, It's About Time, straight to video. Amityville A New Generation, 93, straight to video. Amityville Dollhouse, 96. Amityville Horror, 2005. Amityville Haunting, 2011. Amityville Asylum, 2013. Amityville Death House, 2015. Amityville Playhouse, 2015. Amityville
Jesus
Vanishing Point,
Christ.
2016. Amityville Toy Box, 2016. The Amityville Terror, 2016. Amityville No Escape, 2016. Amityville The Awakening, 2017. Amityville Exorcism, 2017. Amityville Clown House, screw that, 2017. Amityville Murders, 2018. The My Amityville Horror, 2012 documentary. Amityville Cop, 2021. Amityville High, to be announced. Return to Amityville, to be announced. Amityville The Beginning. Amityville The Legacy 3D. Amityville The Final Testament, 2010 TV movie. 28 entries. 3 of them still to be announced. If I could have done that in one breath, that would have been really impressive.
That would have been impressive. That was still impressed. You still read it all. Like, so.
You know how hard it is to say Amityville 28 freaking times in a row?
I can barely say Amityville.
I just kind of mumbled through it. Amityville.
So Amityville Horror, really good. Okay. We actually kind of talked about this already. The Rise of Slasher movies.
Yeah.
Took over a grace period from the 80s to the 90s. We kind of talked about that already.
Yeah. There were still supernatural movies. There were still that type of movie in the 80s and 90s. It never went away totally, but the forefront, it just seems like, and like I said, this could be totally anecdotal, but that's what I remember from that time frame. It was mostly slasher movies. That's what we were watching. Right. And if we watched a supernatural spooky movie, it was just kind of on the side, or it had to be a really good one that came out during the time.
Okay. Let's talk about this real quick.
Okay.
Because this ties in. Would Friday the 13th be considered a slasher or supernatural?
Yes.
Exactly. I think it's both because it relies on jump scares. It relies on the unknown.
Yeah, and we kind of touched on that earlier, that most of those slasher movies do have supernatural elements in them, but they're leaning heavier on the big bad,
right?
As their point of, and when I say big bad, I mean like physically big and bad and doing things like that. That's I think where you have your slasher really.
Texas Chainsaw Massacres.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that was 70s. Yeah. So next, modern supernatural movies.
So like late 90s into early 2000s, we start seeing like a resurgence of these type of movies. We these are in no particular order as far as release date or anything, but they all kind of have that same, I don't want to say the same feel, but you just know it when you hear them. Ring series, and I'm talking about the American version of The Ring, which was a remake of was it Ringu? Ringu. Creepy girl in the well with long hair. Yeah. There were, how many of those movies were there? I think there were 3 or 4. Yeah.
That was The Grudge.
That was The Grudge. See, we get them. Okay, I got The Grudge and The Ring confused so many times in my head.
Well, because they both came out like very quickly together.
Very quickly, very similar look, right? So we've got The Ring 2. The Conjuring series kind of goes back to the, not necessarily exorcism, but exorcism like. So we said The Grudge, which fell along. Okay, this one, I mean, we're not one to like blow past these. We just kind of got time frames here to hit. One that's one of my favorite, and I don't think you hear it talked about enough. Also, possibly because it's another one of those that's hard to pronounce correctly. The Insidious series.
Those were great. Wasn't there only 3 of those?
There's 3 of those, and
those were actually really good.
They told a really good story. You had jump scares that weren't jump scares. Okay, so the red faced demon from those movies.
Yes,
that's one of the most terrifying. What spooky Darth Maul, right?
Yep.
It's like one of the scariest faces. That one still sticks with me. Just the little reveal. I think they were sitting at the dining room table, and he kind of peeks around over the shoulder of the dad. Who's playing the dad? But
what's his name?
Yeah, that guy. And so you see the red face like peek around the corner, and that still sticks with me. Or towards the end of the movie where you hear Tiptoe Through the Tulips by Tiny Tim playing, like,
yes.
Oh,
the tiptoe through the tulips.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what's great about the Insidious, the whole universe, it's the same universe as The Conjuring and Annabelle.
Oh, yeah, they do all tie together, don't they?
Yeah, they're all. So I found the list. It's Insidious in 2010, Insidious Chapter 2, then The Conjuring, then Annabelle, then Insidious Chapter 3, The Conjuring 2, Annabelle Creation, Insidious The Last Key, The Nun. If you remember, The Nun was in Insidious 3,
I think.
Or maybe it was The Last Key. They just announced The Crooked Man from Insidious as a movie.
Weren't they all sort of tied to the doll somehow? There was,
I think
the doll
so.
is what tied it all together. I think.
Yeah, I think Annabelle's the doll that ties the whole universe together.
I think so.
Insidious 5 for next year.
I'm a big fan of these movies.
The Lamberts 10 years after the last installment as Dalton begins college. The Curse of La Llorona. That one was actually pretty good. I liked it. Annabelle Comes Home. The Conjuring. The Devil Made Me Do It. I didn't do that. I didn't see that one. And then they just announced The Nun 2 also.
See, I like that. That's a whole new universe. That's spurred up. You're outside of your Friday the 13th and your Halloweens, and it's like it's a whole new universe. That's cool.
The lady who plays Bonnie Aarons, who plays the nun, that's not all makeup.
She's scary in person.
She is scary. Like, I thought that wasn't. No, that's really her nose. And, Kyle and I aren't ones to make fun of how people look, but she's just kind of scary.
Remember last week? No, Werewolf by Night. We were making fun. Anyway.
Okay.
And so all those tie in together. Now, the Woman in Black series, I think I may have watched one of these.
I don't watch any of those. The first I heard was when you mentioned it.
All right. Well, you guys tell us in the Discord about that. Now, this kind of falls like late 90s, early 2000s, the Final Destination series. This is a scary movie with jump scares and no bad guy. Right?
Well, bad guy's death.
Bad guy's death. You're dodging death. And it's basically, 5 movies of Darwin Awards. But these series of movies are like why nobody wants to drive behind a logging truck anymore. I've seen that movie, and they've spurred this whole thing of, like this is a Final Destination moment. Like you see something that looks like this could be really bad, like it's a Final Destination moment. This is what's going to get us.
And those weren't really scary for me.
No, they weren't. But I think they fall into the supernatural awareness thing.
I'll tell you one that scared me. That's kind of along those lines. It's supernatural and like, was it Mirror or Mirror?
Not sure.
Not Mirror. That one was with Julia Roberts. It was the one with the Kim Possible girl. Christy Carlson Romano. It's the one where hold on, I'll tell you exactly what it was. It was that series. I think there was 2 movies in it. And when you looked in the mirror, you saw like the evil mirror version of yourself from not another universe, but like
I don't think I watched that one.
A
It sounds
paranormal
interesting
one.
though.
Well, like she looked at herself in the mirror and saw her twin cutting her throat, and like another one like cutting their mouth open like a Glasgow smile.
Yeah.
Mirrors 2, I think is what it was called. And then whatever your twin in the mirror did, you did.
I'm going to check those out.
It was actually really good. We'll talk about it after this.
Yeah.
But it was really good.
Paranormal Activity, which spawned
I have not watched any of those.
Really cool. Like they build off that found footage type stuff a lot. They rely heavily on it because there's a lot of at home security camera footage, and they do tell stories in a long, drawn out way of what happened. It's been years since I've seen them all again. I think there's a couple that I didn't catch towards the end, but yeah, just kind of along the lines of Poltergeist in a way, but less in your face, I think. I like them because they do kind of have that really personal feel to it. Like you kind of feel like you're there and you're watching the things that are happening, and it's just these little slow, creepy things that it's the build, like little bitty spooky things keep coming up and coming up and coming up and coming up until the big bad scary spooky thing at the end happens.
So have you seen all of them?
I know I've seen the first 2. I can't think if I've seen the rest of them. Because it gets to a point, it's hard to keep up with everything that's coming out.
Well, and then do you think like this? Because there are like 5 of them now.
I think so. And then there's like hold on.
Do you think they beat this genre to the death?
They're gonna make Hollywood, as long as it's gonna make a profit, they're gonna keep making the movie.
Like Jeepers Creepers, the new one that just came out.
Alien Resurrection that I finally watched today. If it's going to make some money, they'll sell out. Let me see how many Paranormal Activity movies there were. 1, 2, 3, 4. The marked ones was 5. I think I watched that one. Ghost Dimension 6.
Oh, is Ghost Dimension a different one?
Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension. Paranormal Activity Next of Kin, which came out last year. That it looks like it's loosely related to, and that one was just like only on Paramount Plus. So, yeah, that's when it starts dying off. When you're going straight to Paramount Plus.
For now.
Great movies. The first one came out. What year was it? 2007. God, some of these movies were creeping up really close on the 15 and 20 year anniversary of. That's crazy to me. Yeah.
That is so nuts. Evil Dead remake, one of our favorite series.
Yep. I think this falls into that because it's not as campy.
Yeah. No, it's more of the supernatural.
Yeah.
The trees. It Follows, which hits awfully close to home for Kyle.
I haven't watched it yet, so we've talked about it like several times over the last couple of weeks. I'm just going to break it down and watch it.
It is such a great movie. Oh, you know what? Another good one to be talk about would be like Halloween anthology movies too, like Trick or Treat with Sam. That might be good too.
have
It
to watch it.
Follows is basically an STD entity.
STD entity.
Entity.
Sexually
By
transmitted
Jove.
demon.
By Jove, Holmes, I think you've come up with a new genre. There's demons in the semen. We have exorcised the demons.
Wash your
and then
hands,
a guy
man.
comes out and goes, "Oh, I need some Gatorade, thank you."
Well, you've been in that bathroom the last 45 minutes exercising demons. We got
That's right.
We gotta go.
We're not gonna ruin it for you, but it's good. Hellraiser. The Hellraiser series, one of my favorites. They can't all be winners. The first two were very good. I like this last one. This last one was not a horror movie, though. The Cenobites were awesome, and I want to see more of their backstory, but it was not scary. At the point Lily watched it with me, it's not scary.
I've
So
got
you
that
may
on my
actually
list.
like it. Yeah, you may actually like
I
it.
like scary stuff, though.
I do too. But no, but I'm saying you may like this because it's different.
Okay.
And I know you, because I know you're not a big fan of Hellraiser.
I'm just like, I'm not against it. It's just I didn't get super into it. It was before I started getting into a lot of these movies later, and I skipped over that one. That one wasn't in the general rotation at the
You
family.
should give them a shot. And like I said, some of them, like Hellraiser Bloodlines.
I've seen the
one where
first
he's in
one or
space.
two, but
the first two are good.
Mhm.
And they actually follow the canon, and then they did comics off of it, and the comics are actually really good because they go deeper into the history of like Pinhead and all the Cenobites and everything. It's just interesting because each demon is customized the way that they've been disfigured in pain.
Yeah.
Is customized to what they are like. Like this one, I think she's the voice. I can't remember her name. She was a beauty queen and she was beautiful. And so they cut out her vocal box and her vagina, and
because why
laid
not?
open. What's that?
Because why not?
Because why not? But
box in the box.
These two twins were obsessed with technology, and so they wrapped them together, integrated with technology. Like their deaths equal what their sin was, basically.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to watch that.
It's kind of cool. Okay. So there's Hellraiser. So I just added something to there. A name. Javier Botet. You're going to go want to, Kyle, look at Facebook, what I posted earlier about him.
Javier Botet.
He is, you've seen him in many, many, many Hollywood movies, but you don't know it's him.
Oh, see a guy behind a mask. And, very angular fellow.
You know the Slender Man in Insidious?
Yeah.
That's him.
Oh.
Basically, that's just him with a mask on and clothes. That's actually his body, how he looks. You think a lot's CG. He's super tall and skinny, super long, creepy fingers. That's him.
That's cool.
I think he was Lalornia too. Hold on. But yeah, he was also, he was bullied as a kid just because of his unique body, and he started taking like acting classes, I think it was. And his teacher said, "Hey, you should try out for this," and it's been ever since. And apparently he's just like the nicest guy ever.
Okay, so he has Marfan syndrome, which certain body tissues brought about by his condition to give him extremely long fingers, and he's also really tall and thin. He's 6'7", weighs 123.
Yeah, he was the witch in It Chapter 2, and the hobo. He's Slender Man in the Slender Man movie.
He was in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. He was the toeless corpse. Okay.
Oh, was he? He was Keyface in Insidious.
He
The
did
last
some stuff
key
for Alien
set in the
Covenant.
Mummy. Oh, he's a xenomorph. Yeah, Crooked Man. Where was it? He was the Nightmare character. He's been in a lot. Just go look him up. It's really interesting, and the video behind him is just so nuts. So you're gonna want to watch that after we get done, because
Okay.
you'll just be like, "Oh God, this." He sat there for hours doing these creepy things in the mirror when he was younger, and so all those like weird things, like when you see the Crooked Man walking
Mhm.
in cities, you know, that weird walk like that. That's actually him doing it. Stuff he's practiced before.
Okay. See, that's why that stuff really sticks is practical effects. Like it just
Yeah.
works.
It's just awesome. But yeah, that's really all we got on this. I mean, it's not a super long episode, but it's one that really that Kyle and I love. We love this genre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been on my horror movie kick or horror-ish movie kick the last few days, but mine's been mostly like you probably picked up. I've been binging the Alien series because I've been wanting to watch Prometheus, and the completionist in me will not let me watch Prometheus until I've watched at least up through Alien Resurrection, which I knocked out today. But I'm getting ready to switch over to some more spooky movies. I did finally watch Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark the other day, though, which I
What
loved.
did you think?
I absolutely loved it.
I did too.
The
So
only thing
I
I was
think-
sad about is we didn't get to see the Wendigo.
Yes. Yeah, I remember you said that. So would you consider that this genre?
Yeah, 100%.
I would too.
Yep. I think
Well,
it
okay.
fits the genre really well.
Why did you like it so much? Did you find it scary? I found it terrifying.
I didn't find it that scary. I just thought the story, like what I was talking about, like, oh, I was sucked in to try to find out. Like, I was wanting to know what the backstory was, and I was gonna be really upset if they didn't give some more story to what was her name, Sarah. So I really liked it because of that. Now I felt like it borrowed a lot of stuff from a lot of other things that were popular at the time. I got some really big Stranger Things vibes from it for certain reasons. But Stranger Things borrows from other things. And so, like top of the list, not super high, enjoyable watch. Yeah. Like it's not in my top 10 by any means, but it was super enjoyable to watch. The character design, the creature design was really cool. The way they told some of the stories was really cool. The way they tied it all together was really cool. Slightly predictable, but still really cool. There was enough aha and oh, like surprise moments that kept me in it.
Right. And what I told Kyle was the reason that it scared me and the reason why I thought he'd like it, it's because I remember reading those stories in the dark as kids.
Mm-hmm.
And scaring the shit out of me because I was reading it by flashlight, you know, under my covers.
As one should.
As one should. And those are some of the best memories. But this brought back those memories as a little kid when you were just afraid of everything. I'm still afraid of everything, but even more so.
You are a skittish adult.
I am a skittish adult. And that's why people love me. They don't love me.
You need a shirt for Halloween that just says, "Don't scare me, I might pee."
And on the back it says "Too late."
Too late. I sat on my balls.
I said, can you imagine if I wore that one to school? Yeah. So what do you all think?
Let us know in the notes below.
So with
that's
that,
we had with the whole Amityville thing. You don't have this one. You get the picture that you got. I forgot all about this. I want to make sure we got it in before the end. You get the one with the yellow lights through the windows there. Have you seen the ones with the red lights? Like the demony, spooky looking.
Yeah.
And so that was showing that like a long time ago, and it still may happen, that because all that red and, you know, there was, what was it, like murder and death and demons and all this unexplained stuff, that they're actually looking at using that to bring Mephisto into the mainstream. The MCU
is off. I'm like, yeah, no. Yeah, the red signifies the demons and the death. And funny enough, we'll discuss this in November when we get back to regular episodes, but they may have cast Mephisto.
Nice. Oh, and I hope it's true.
Yep. So with that, this has been Everyman's Guide to Nerddom. I'm Chris.
And I'm Kyle. Wherever you guys are, please have a great evening, night, morning, whatever time it is. And please be Spooky. Be spooky to each
Stay
other.
fresh, cheese bags.
There it is.
See ya.
See you guys.
Rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore used to be just a made up word.